You're 26. Derek was in your dorm room freshman year eating the same instant ramen, splitting the same $40 pizza 4 ways because none of you could afford a whole one alone.
Last week, Derek put a down payment on a house. You liked the post. You typed, "Congrats, bro!" And then you sat there in the apartment you split with a roommate you found on Facebook and felt something you didn't want to name. You did everything they told you to do. Good grades, a degree, a real job. You pay your loans on time, most months. And somehow, you're still checking your account balance before you tap your card for a $6 coffee, wondering if this is just what life is now. Here's what nobody tells you at 26. Your life isn't set by how hard you try. It's set by one number, your salary. And the gap between income tiers isn't just money. It's your health, your relationships. Whether you're the one buying the house or the one liking the post, this is your life at 26. Derek's life too, at every income level, from $20,000 to $1 million. Same age, same starting line. Watch where the paths split. Stay to the end, because the biggest gap isn't the one you think it is. You're 26, working 2 part-time jobs that never quite add up to full-time hours, because full-time hours mean your employer has to give you benefits. They'd rather not. Rent is $850 for a room in a house with 3 strangers you found on an app. You don't have a car. You have a bus pass, a pair of worn-out shoes, and a 15-minute walk in the rain when the bus is late. Every purchase is a calculation. Groceries become a math problem. The $4 chicken or the $6 chicken? And does that $2 matter this week? It does. It always does. You haven't seen a dentist in 3 years. Not because you don't care, because a cleaning costs more than your grocery budget for the month. And your teeth can wait, and your stomach can't. Your student loan servicer calls. You don't answer. You know what they want, but you don't have it. At night, you scroll past Derek's engagement post and close the app before the feeling catches up to you. He proposed at the restaurant where you two used to split an appetizer because neither of you could afford your own. At $40,000, you finally have your own studio apartment. It feels like winning for about a week. Then you do the math and realize 45% of your paycheck disappears into rent before you've bought a single thing. You have a car now, also a car payment. Also a check engine light you've been ignoring for 2 months, because fixing it means not eating out for the rest of the month. And you already gave up eating out in month 1. You have $340 in savings. You call it an emergency fund, mostly to make yourself feel better about calling it anything at all. 1 flat tire and a dentist visit in the same month would wipe it out completely. 1 month? It does. Derek posts from a work trip to Austin. You're happy for him. You're also doing quiet math in your head about how many hours of your life a plane ticket like that would cost you right now. You're not drowning anymore. You're treading water. And treading water for years in a row starts to feel a lot like drowning in slow motion, just with better lighting on Instagram. At $70,000, you can finally breathe. You go out to dinner without doing math beforehand. You buy the good coffee, the kind with a name you can't pronounce, and you don't flinch at the price. You have $4,000 in savings, and for the first time, it doesn't feel fragile. It feels like a foundation instead of a countdown. But you're still 26, and your rent went up $200 this year because your landlord matched the market. A phrase that means nothing, except that you have less than you did last year for doing nothing different. Your friend from Tier 1 thinks you've made it. Derek, 3 tiers ahead of you, still treats you like you're behind. You start to understand that behind And ahead depend entirely on who's standing next to you when you check. You open a 401k. You put in the minimum your employer matches. You tell yourself you'll increase it later. You mostly believe that. $100,000 sounds like the finish line. It's the number every career video promises will fix everything. 6 figures. The number your parents would have called made it money. It doesn't fix everything. If you're 26 and living in a city with actual job opportunities, and most $100,000 jobs are in cities like that, a third of that check disappears to taxes before you ever see it. Another third disappears to rent because a 1-bedroom near your office runs $2,600 a month, and you're not commuting 2 hours each way just to save $400. What's left has to cover a car payment, student loans, groceries, and whatever's left of a social life. You make 6 figures. You still glance at your balance before you tap your card at brunch with Derek, who at this point doesn't check his balance for anything. This is the tier that breaks people's brains, because the number on your offer letter says rich, and the number in your bank account says same as before with better branding. At $200,000, things actually shift. Not because the number doubled from tier 4, but because for the first time in your life, you have real choices instead of survival decisions. You max out your 401k and still have money left over. Actual, real, leftover money sitting there, not already spent in your head before it lands. You can take a vacation without financing it. You can look at a house listing and not laugh out loud at the audacity of the price. But you're 26, working 55-hour weeks to hold this number, answering emails at 9 p.m., taking calls on weekends. Derek, sitting at $500,000 in his industry, texts you at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, a video of him on a beach somewhere you can't place, captioned, "Who's working today, LOL?" You have more money than you've ever had, and less time to enjoy it than you've ever had. The dopamine from both faded in about 3 weeks, the way it always does, no matter the price tag attached. You're 26, with more money than 99% of people your age, Googling things at 1 a.m. like, why do I still feel empty? Quietly, in a house that echoes a little too much for one person. At $1 million and above, the money problem is fully solved. And that's exactly when you find out the money was never the actual problem.
You're 26, financially free by every definition that matters, facing a question nobody at Tier 1 has time to think about. What do you actually want to do with your life now that make more money isn't the answer anymore? Some people at this tier build something meaningful with the freedom. Others drift, chasing a bigger number, because chasing a number is easier than sitting still with the real question. The tier doesn't hand you purpose. It simply removes your last excuse for not finding it. Here's what nobody tells you about these 7 tiers. The biggest jump isn't between $20,000 and $1 million. It's between $100,000 and $200,000. That's the tier where the illusion breaks and real choice begins. Everything below $100,000 is survival with a nicer coat of paint. Everything above $200,000 is a different psychological game entirely. The game of time, purpose, and identity instead of the game of will this bounce. And Derek isn't the point. Derek was never actually racing you.
You made that race up in your head, one liked post at a time. The only tier that actually matters is the one you're standing on right now compared to the one you were standing on last year. If you're 26 right now, sitting somewhere on this list feeling behind, you're not behind. You're early. The tiers aren't fixed. They're just where you are today.
The people who move up this list don't do it by waiting for a raise to save them, or for Derek to fail so they can feel better by comparison.
They do it by treating every tier as temporary, building one skill, one asset, one decision at a time that moves them one level up. You don't need to jump from $20,000 to $1 million. You don't need Derek's life. You need to get to the next tier. Then the one after that. That's the only version of this list that actually matters. Not where you are, but where you're headed.